From Osama to Obama, Al-Qaeda's leader warns the US president of more attacks as long as Palestinians are suffering. But has the Palestinian issue ever been part of Al-Qaeda's agenda? And does the group serve or scupper Palestinian dreams? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Imran Garda. From one ideological leader to the leader of the so-called free world, Osama bin Laden has warned Barack Obama that Al-Qaeda will attack again. In an audio tape that has yet to be verified, he hailed the failed Christmas Day attempt to blow up a plane to Detroit. And he said there'll be more attacks if the situation in Palestine is not resolved.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Min Osama ila Obama. Salamun ala man ittaba al-huda. Amma ba'd. لو أن رسائلنا إليكم تحملها الكلمات لما حملناها إليكم بالطائرات وإن الرسالة المراد إبلاغها لكم عبر طائرة البطل المجاهد عمر الفاروق فرج الله عنه هي تأكيد على رسالة سابقة بلغها لكم أبطال 11 وكررت من قبل ومن بعد وهي لن تحلم أمريكا بالأمن حتى نعيشه واقعا في فلسطين وليس من الإنصاف أن تهنأوا بالعيش وإخواننا في غزة في أنكد عيش وعليه فبإذن الله غاراتنا عليكم ستتواصل ما دام دعمكم للإسرائيليين متواصل والسلام على من اتبع الهدى.
Well, while Al-Qaeda's leader may talk about the Palestinian situation, Palestinian factions have continued to distance themselves from the Islamist movement. After Hamas were voted into power in Gaza, Al-Qaeda urged them to continue their struggle, whilst condemning their participation in elections. Hamas responded by rejecting the notion that the two groups shared any ideology. Leader Khalid Meshal said later that the Palestinian struggle was not about religion or race, but against occupation itself. He stressed that Jews, Christians and Muslims had lived side by side for centuries and that this was the ideal. Well, despite Israeli claims that Al-Qaeda is active in Gaza, last August Hamas crushed a small extremist group calling themselves the Warriors of God. Hamas forces killed over 20 people, arrested more than 150 and have since been monitoring mosques for lectures in Islamic extremism. Well, opinions on the streets of Gaza were divided between supporters and non-supporters of bin Laden's latest audio tape.
God bless him, and I hope the Arab people wake up at last and think like him. They need to wake up. Enough of what we are enduring.
Bin Laden can speak for himself, for Al-Qaeda and its war against the Americans, but he should leave the Palestinians to decide for themselves what is the best way to get their rights and establish their state.
Bin Laden's latest statement has the approval of all Palestinian people because it defends its just cause against the Israeli repression and war crimes committed against them, including the blockade with the blessings of the US and Europe.
I don't think we should be concerned in any way by what bin Laden has said. We have our own internal problems and we should focus more on resolving them than listening to what he has to say.
Well, with us to discuss this issue today from London, we have Michael Griffin, an independent analyst and author on Al-Qaeda. Also in London, we have Abdelbari Atwan, editor of Al-Quds Al-Arabi newspaper. And Richard Pape also joins us from Chicago. He's a professor of political science at the University of Chicago, and he's director of the Chicago Project on Security and Terrorism. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. Mr. Griffin, if I could start with you. I know we as a network got this tape first. I don't want to undermine the whole premise of this discussion by my being skeptical, but how do we know, how can we be sure it was bin Laden in the first place?
Well, I don't think there is any certainty. To me, it doesn't really sound like him. You can, if you do this for 10 years, as I've been doing it, you can hear that what was a very voluptuous sound is now becoming very grating almost. I'm not sure how it sounds in Arabic, which I don't speak, but there is no way of authenticating this. The United States authorities are saying it sounds like him. It could be him, but at the same time, there are certain things that he's saying and ways of saying them, and obviously the brevity of this message call into question its authenticity.
Abdul Bari Atwan, I thought more or less it did sound like him in Arabic. What do you think?
Well, I've been following him for the last 15 years or so, and I listened to most of his audio tapes and video tapes, and I met him personally, and I believe it is his voice, and it is 99% authentic. So I don't know why the Americans are skeptic about it. And if it wasn't Osama bin Laden, yeah, Al-Qaeda will be quick to issue a statement saying that this is not the authentic tape of Osama bin Laden. So we are in a very modern time. The technology is very advanced. So if the tape is not authentic, definitely it will be refuted. So I think it is authentic.
Okay, now that we got that out of the way, Abdul Bari Atwan, has the message from Osama bin Laden evolved or changed over time? Just looking at some of his previous addresses, but last time he warned Europe to get out of Afghanistan. Previously, he had a lot more focus on Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq. Why this specific focus on Palestine this time?
First, the message was very precise and very direct and very short. And this is, it seems, a new style of Osama bin Laden speeches, or future actually speeches, to the Muslim world and to the Arab world. Second, in this message in particular, he concentrated on Palestine. He is saying to the Palestinian people, Al-Qaeda is with you, supporting your cause, and he actually very clever here. He, since there is a vacuum now in Palestine, the peace process collapsed completely. The U.S. peace envoy, Senator Mitchell, left the area empty-handed. Also, Hamas is not resisting. There is no missile launched from Gaza toward the Israeli settlements in north of Gaza. And the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank is a complete disarray. They're gambling with the peace process, not working, and they don't have any intifada or resistance from their side. So I think he would like to fill this vacuum. Why he is changing his tactic, concentrating on Palestine? Because he realized that the previous strategy of Al-Qaeda to concentrate on the fringes of the Muslim worlds, Philippines, Indonesia, Bosnia, Chechnya, is not actually popular among the Muslim worlds. The only unifying issue in the Muslim world is the Palestinian question, because of Jerusalem, because of the Israeli, right, because of the Jews, you name it. So that's why actually he is going to the bull's eyes. He is going to the most important issue on the Muslim world.
Mr. Pape, is he filling a vacuum or trying to fill a vacuum? Or is he merely just trying to stay relevant and say, listen guys, I'm here, remember?
I definitely agree with what's already been said, but I think it's important to point out that bin Laden has long mentioned Israel in his statements, and probably if you were to kind of look at his statements over time, you'd see about 25%, 30% of the time he talks about Israel. Most of the time, however, he's talking about American and Western occupation of the Arabian Peninsula or Afghanistan, and I suspect in the future we'll see him return to this again and again. I think that in this particular instance, what's been happening over the last year is that bin Laden has been trying to frame his speeches very much to leaders. This one is framed directly to Obama, and I think that part of the reason for that is because bin Laden would like to reshape the image of Obama in the Arab world. When Obama came into office, he was viewed widely as very different from Bush, and this is a problem for Al-Qaeda and Osama if they're trying to mobilize opposition to America, to have a new leader that wants to work with the Muslim world. And I believe that what has been going on, not just in this message, but in others, is an effort by Al-Qaeda to reshape the image of Obama, to try to paint him as essentially an extension of Bush. In this case, essentially, he is also pro-Israeli and therefore just another iteration of these American presidents. I don't think that's the reality, but I do think that's what Al-Qaeda is trying to do.
But let's go to Mr. Griffin. Is it more than just the issue of an image? Is it not true that Barack Obama hasn't actually done much for the Palestinian people or putting pressure on Israel. Hence, we didn't do a scientific census on the streets of Gaza, but we did find enough people who said, yeah, they agree with what bin Laden has had to say.
Well, I seem to remember that when Obama made his first visit to Cairo, there was a direct address by Osama bin Laden to him, then talking about Israel specifically. And President Obama did put Israel on his hit list of things to do in an attempt to refocus attention in the United States and also in the rest of the world on the fact that Al-Qaeda was the problem and not Iraq. So on the one hand, he downplayed the Iraqi issue and drew down US forces there and had the surge in Iraq over the past couple of years. And secondly, he began to try to negotiate the end of settlements in the West Bank. But he has definitely lost focus in that area. He lost momentum last year. And now I think a lot of his time is taken up with trying to develop the AFGHAN strategy further east. Now, yes, you might be saying that bin Laden is trying to refocus the attention on Israel, but I think probably he's trying to steal some of President Obama's thunder.
Mr. Griffin, Al-Qaeda's number 2, Ayman al-Zawahiri, has previously said that Hamas are now, for want of a better term, sellouts because they embraced elections, democracy, a two-state solution, and sort of implicitly recognized the Oslo Accords. Is he helping or hindering the Palestinian cause, do you think?
Well, to pun badly, there's an attempt, I think, possibly to hijack the Palestinian issue and to try to wrap it within kind of an Al-Qaeda manifesto. And clearly, according to your straw poll, Palestinians are simply not accepting bin Laden's interpretation of what the central issues are about. Yes, they can see that the central issue is about Israeli occupation, but they see a Palestinian solution to this and not a bin Laden solution to it. So I think that possibly bin Laden is feeling marginalized, because certainly the moving spirits of Al-Qaeda are not in North Waziristan or South Waziristan, where he may be hiding. So he does need to piggyback a little bit on international issues or the growth of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is obviously was apparently behind the attempt to blow up Detroit airport.
Abdul Bari Atwan, we saw Hamas about 6 months ago flush out that group Jund Ansar Allah, a group which may have been ideologically linked to Al-Qaeda, but maybe not operationally. To what extent do you think has Al-Qaeda managed to penetrate Gaza and or the West Bank?
I don't believe Al-Qaeda will manage to actually achieve a huge penetration of the Palestinian territories in the West Bank and Gaza, for many reasons, because there is no lack of radical organization, resistance organization among the Palestinians. There is Al-Jihad al-Islami, which is very radical. There is Hamas, which is fairly radical. There is the popular committees, also radicals. There are Jundullah, Jund al-Islam, Ansar al-Islam. There are numerous organizations working on Gaza and the West Bank. But I believe if Hamas pragmatism will continue, and if they manage actually to curb any launching of rockets against Israel, here I believe Al-Qaeda will find a space in a way or another, because Palestinian people, especially in Gaza, who are frustrated, besieged, starved by the Israelis and by the Egyptians when they sealed the border completely, I think those people are very frustrated, and some of them, a few of them, would welcome the ideology of Al-Qaeda. So we have to be very careful here. As long as the siege is going to continue, this will be more opportunity for Al-Qaeda and other radical organizations to have a space among the Palestinians. Imagine if you are starved. Imagine if you cannot send your sick people to hospitals. Imagine if your children cannot find milk. So what can you do? You definitely turn to radicalism and support radical groups, because this is the only choice in front of you. Moderation wouldn't work, wouldn't appeal to the people who are under siege. So I think we have to look at that, and I believe Osama bin Laden was very clever to sense this, to try to seize the opportunity and try to appeal to Gazan people and also to the people on the West Bank, saying to them, your resistance group are not resisting anymore. Al-Qaeda is still committed to you. So that's why he made the linkage here.
Mr. Pape, bin Laden said, and I quote, "America will never dream of living in peace unless we live it in Palestine. It is unfair that you enjoy a safe life while our brothers in Gaza suffer greatly." To you, does that sound like a sort of crude logic of revenge?
It is some, but I believe that bin Laden's support of the Palestinian cause is really quite superficial. If you look at Al-Qaeda's attacks since they began, especially the suicide attacks since 1995, there have been over 30 major Al-Qaeda suicide and other attacks, and not a single one has been directed against Israel, not even an attempt. Even during the Second Intifada, when there was this major war between Israel and the Palestinians, bin Laden sort of just stood by on the sidelines. I'm not saying bin Laden doesn't have sympathy for the Palestinians. I think, in fact, not just Arabs and not just Muslims, but many people around the world have great sympathy for the plight of the Palestinians, as well they should. But I think that bin Laden's support is actually quite superficial, and I think it would actually be a mistake for the Palestinians to sort of move very, very close to bin Laden here, because I don't think it would serve their interest in creating an independent state.
When he talks about we don't live in peace, so you can't live in peace, you can understand how some Palestinians might warm to that, can't you? Because a year ago, Israel and its backer, the United States, said much the same thing. They said unless the people of Sderot and Ashkelon live in peace from rocket attacks, Gaza will be attacked. So it's similar sort of logic, isn't it?
It is a very similar sort of logic, but again, I don't think that bin Laden is all that interested in expending any real resources to help the Palestinians. Again, as I said, he's never directed a single one of his attacks against Israel or even attempted to. And I think that the fact of the matter is he's very interested in attacking the United States or America's military allies who have forces stationed side by side with the United States in Afghanistan and on the Arabian Peninsula. That's been his main focus. That's where all his energy has gone, at least 99% of it, in the last over 15 years. And I just don't believe that his support of the Palestinian cause is much more than simply rhetorical support. The main thing that he's doing in this tape is he's linking the issue of Palestine to President Obama, much the way he has done in many, many previous speeches where he tries to give an explanation for why American foreign policy has been so aggressive in occupying Muslim countries. Bin Laden has long believed that Jews and Christians together, that is Christian evangelicals, run American foreign policy, and that's the motive behind our occupation policies. And this, I think, just further fits in that particular mold. I just don't believe that what we're seeing here is a shift by bin Laden to suddenly, abandon focus on Afghanistan or the Arabian Peninsula, and now 90% of his effort is going to be directed toward helping the Palestinians build their own state. I just don't believe it.
Understood. Michael Griffin, he celebrated Omar Farouk Abdul Muttalib. He called him a heroic warrior. I mean, he wasn't much of a heroic warrior in the Al-Qaeda sense, given that nobody died. He only managed to burn himself, to hurt himself. What was he celebrating? Was he celebrating more that sort of paranoia that we saw in many Western countries as a result of that botched attack? He must have loved it.
Well, I think he was celebrating to a large extent the fact that the attempted suicide bomber had managed to penetrate all of the security systems which have been established over the past 9 years since 9/11, and to make a fairly good attempt at getting inside a very important Western city and demolishing and blowing himself up along with hundreds of other people. So what's not to celebrate about that? Because this was precisely what the 9/11 suicide teams had done, was that they'd done almost what was then unthinkable. They'd taken planes and smashed them into civilian and military targets. Now, this was an attempt, I suspect, I think what he's reveling in is the fact that it came so close to winning, even though he simply burned his own legs and was effectively detained within minutes.
Yes.
It was a very, very good attempt.
Well, while that Detroit plane attack may have not gone through as planned, as we mentioned, it did shake the U.S. administration. its intelligence and security were put under the spotlight, and the US was forced to examine flaws in its systems. The bomber was allegedly trained in Yemen with US backing. Yemen has since launched several major operations against Al-Qaeda. Well, as Obama prepared to send 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan, less than a week after the foiled Christmas attack, 8 people working with the CIA were killed in Khost. A double agent, a man recruited to inform on Al-Qaeda, blew himself up. Abdelbari Atwan, what I find amazing is that Osama bin Laden didn't mention that brazen and spectacular, from Al-Qaeda's point of view, attack on those CIA agents in Khost. Why not?
Well, I think because the type of this letter is extremely different from the previous types and the style. Here, as I said, he is talking to Obama as the Emir of Mu'mineen, the Emir of Faithful, the leader of Faithful. He's saying from Osama to Obama. He put himself in equal footing with the American president. This is one thing. Second thing, I believe he is concentrating on more media achievement. Here, Omar Al-Farouk operation to try to blow up American airliner was extremely important to spread the politics of fear, which is an integral part of Osama bin Laden ideology and practices. So I think Omar Al-Farouk for him is the one, the hero as he described him, who managed to penetrate the heavy American and British and European security and reach his destination. Whether he succeed or not, Osama bin Laden benefited from that operation to shaken the American administration, to shaken Obama administration, and to gain the maximum of the publicity. So I believe he succeeded in that. That's why maybe he concentrated on this. Second thing, Hammam al-Balawi, the one who was behind the huge penetration of the CIA, was actually recruited by Afghanistan Taliban. He wasn't actually recruited by Al-Qaeda. So it wasn't his operation. It wasn't his achievement. And we saw Mr. al-Balawi sitting with Hakimullah Mahsoud, the leader or the new leader of Taliban, and reading his will and his intention to actually carry out his attack. So that's why it is not Al-Qaeda operation. That's why he didn't claim it. But it seems Omar Al-Farouk is his actually operation, his fingerprints. So he did claim it.
Understood. Final question, because we're running out of time, for Richard. Pape, this was from Osama to Obama. Can we expect some sort of Obama to Osama? Can you expect the US president to factor in some sort of response, however nuanced, in one of his forthcoming speeches?
I'd be very surprised if President Obama would want to be on the same par as Osama bin Laden. Partly, I don't think it's a good idea for the American president to raise the stature of a terrorist, but simply morally, I think that this would be a gigantic mistake. So I'd be very, very surprised if we end up seeing, sort of tit-for-tat speeches back and forth. I don't think we're going to see BFFs here.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure hearing your thoughts, all of you in London and Chicago. Michael Griffin, Abdelbari Atwan and Richard Pape. Thanks a lot for joining us on Inside Story, and thank you so much, the viewer, for joining us here on this episode of Inside Story. As always, we welcome your comments, your suggestions, your questions. You can email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye-bye.